Namaste. Dandavat Pranam. By the instruction and grace of our spiritual master, Om Vishnu Pad Paramahamsa, Sripad Bhakti Madhava Puri Maharaj, we are here reading Srimad Bhagavatam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We're also paying our humble Dandavat Pranam to Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada for providing us this wonderful commentary and translation of Bhagavatam. And we are praying to Śrīmatī Rādhārāṇī. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur told us that unless we can understand something about Śrīmatī Rādhārāṇī through our reading of Bhagavatam, then our study has been for waste if we have not done that. So with this in mind, we are praying to Śrīmatī Rādhārāṇī. Yadi sevā-vañcitāḥ syāma, yasyāḥ kṛpayā vayaṃ labhema, sarvaṃ prāpnumaḥ prayojanaṃ, dhāmni śrī-bhagavat pade, Kṛṣṇa-sambandhi sarvaṃ Yadi na jānīmahe tutam, Aṣṭādaśasu sahasreṣu, ślokānāṃ bhāgavat-oktiṣu, Rādhārānīṃ na vindāmaḥ tada, nisfalam bhagavat yayinam, radhikaya kripam vina, vyartasyat sarva-pariśramaḥ. If we are cheated out of serving that personality, whose mercy awards us everything we need, including residence in the Lord's holy Dham, and all things connected to Krishna, and if we cannot understand or discover Rādhārānī within the 18,000 verses of Srimad Bhagavatam, then our study of Srimad Bhagavatam has been pointless. Without the mercy of Śrīmatī Rādhārāṇī, all of our efforts are in vain. So we are continuing our reading from Canto 5, the Creative Impetus, Chapter 5. Lord Ṛṣabhadeva's teachings to his son, text 14. Karmashayam hridaya granti bandham avidyaya saditam apramata anena yogena yato padesham samyagvyapo yo parameta yogat. As I have advised you, my dear sons, you should act accordingly. Be very careful. By these means you will be freed from the ignorance of the desire for fruit of activity, and the knot of bondage in the heart will be completely severed. For further advancement, you should also give up the means. That is, you should not become attached to the process of liberation itself. Purport. The process of liberation is Brahma Jigyasa, the search for the absolute truth. Generally, Brahma Jigyasa is called Neti Neti, the process by which one analyzes existence to search out the absolute truth. This method continues as long as one is not situated in his spiritual life. Spiritual life is Brahma Bhuta, the self-realized state. In the words of Bhagavad Gita 18.54, Brahma Bhuta prasanatma na sochati na kanchati, samasarveshu bhuteshu mad bhaktim labhate param. One who is thus transcendentally situated at once realizes the Supreme Brahman and becomes fully joyful. He never laments or desires to have anything. He is equally disposed to every living entity. In that state, he attains pure devotional service unto me. The idea is to enter into the para-bhakti, the transcendental devotional service of the Supreme Lord. To attain this, one must analyze one's existence. But when one is actually engaged in devotional service, he should not bother seeking out knowledge. By simply engaging in devotional service undeviatingly, one will always remain in the liberated condition. Mam chayo vyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate sa gunan samatityaitan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. Bhagavad Gita 14.26. The unflinching execution of devotional service is in itself Brahmabhuta. Another important feature in this connection is anena yogena yato padesham. The instructions received from the spiritual master must be followed immediately. One should not deviate from or surpass the instructions of the spiritual master. One should not be simply intent on consulting books, but should simultaneously execute the spiritual master's orders, yato padesham. Mystic power should be achieved to enable one to give up the material conception. But when one actually engages in devotional service, one does not need to practice the mystic yoga system. The point is that one can give up the practice of yoga, but devotional service cannot be given up. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam 1.7.10, Atmaramas chamunayo nirgrantha api urukrame kurvantya haitukam bhaktim itham bhuta gunohari. Even those who are liberated, Atmarama, must always engage in devotional service. One may give up the practice of yoga when one is self-realized, but at no stage can one give up devotional service. All other activities for self-realization, including yoga and philosophical speculation, may be given up, but devotional service must be retained at all times. Text 15. Putrams cha sishyams chanripo gururva maloka kamo mad anugraharta itham vimanyur anushisyad atyan nayo jayet karmasu karma mudhan kamyo jayan munujo ritam labhita nipatayan Aṣṭādāśasu higarte. If one is serious about going back home, back to Godhead, he must consider the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the summum bonum and chief aim of life. If he is a father instructing his sons, a spiritual master instructing his disciples, or a king instructing his citizens, he must instruct them as I have advised. Without being angry, he should continue giving instructions, even if his disciple, son, or citizen is sometimes unable to follow his order. Ignorant people who engage in pious and impious activities should be engaged in devotional service by all means. They should always avoid fruitive activity. If one puts into the bondage of karmic activity his disciple, son, or citizen who is bereft of transcendental vision, how will one profit? It is like leading a blind man to a dark well and causing him to fall in. Purport. It is stated in Bhagavad Gita 3.26, Nabhuti bedam janayed. Nabhuti bhyedam janayed ajnanam karma sanginam. Josa yet sarva karmani vidvan yukta samacharam. Let not the wise disrupt the minds of the ignorant who are attached to fruitive activity. They should be encouraged not to refrain from work, but to work in the spirit of devotion. Text 16. Lokasvayam shreyasi nasta drishtir yoritan samiheta nikama kama anyonya vaira shuka lesha hetor ananta dukam cha naveda mudha. Due to ignorance, the materialistic person does not know anything about his real self-interest, the auspicious path in life. He is simply bound to material enjoyment by lusty desires, and all his plans are made for this purpose. For temporary sense gratification, such a person creates a society of envy, and due to this mentality, he plunges into the ocean of suffering. Such a foolish person does not even know about this. Purport. The word nasta drishti, meaning one who has no eyes to see the future, is very significant in this verse. Life goes on from one body to another, and the activities performed in this life are enjoyed or suffered in the next life, if not later in this life. One who is unintelligent, who has no eyes to see the future, simply creates enmity and fights with others for sense gratification. As a result, one suffers in the next life, but due to being like a blind man, he continues to act in such a way that he suffers unlimitedly. Such a person is a mudha, one who simply wastes his time and does not understand the Lord's devotional service. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 7.25, Naham prakasha sarvasya yoga maya samavrita mudhoyam nabhijanati lokomam ajam avyayam. I am never manifest to the foolish and unintelligent. For them I am covered by my eternal creative potency, Yogamaya, and so the deluded world knows me not, who am unborn and infallible. In the Katha Upanishad it is also said, Avidyayam antare vartmana svayam dira panditam manyamanaha. Although ignorant people still go to other blind men for leadership. As a result, both are subjected to miserable conditions. The blind lead the blind into the ditch. Text 17. Kastam svayam tad abhigyo vipaschid avidyayam antare vartamanam dristva punastam sagrinha kubudim prayojayad utpatagam yatandam. If someone is ignorant and addicted to the path of samsara, how can one who is actually learned, merciful, and advanced in spiritual knowledge engage him in fruitive activity, and thus further entangle him into material existence? If a blind man is walking down the wrong path, how can a gentleman allow him to continue on his way to danger? How can he approve this method? No wise or kind man can allow this. Text 18. Gurur na sasyat svajano na sasyat. Pita na sasyaj janani na sasyat. Daivam na tatsyan na patischa sasyan. Namo chayedya samupetamrityam. One who cannot deliver his dependents from the path of repeated birth and death should never become a spiritual master, a father, a husband, a mother, or a worshipable demigod. Purport. There are many spiritual masters, but Ṛṣabhadeva advises that one should not become a spiritual master if he is unable to save his disciple from the path of birth and death. Unless one is a pure devotee of Krishna, he cannot save himself from the path of repeated birth and death. Tyaktva deham punar janma naiti mam eti sarjuna. One can stop birth and death only by returning home back to Godhead. However, who can go back to Godhead unless he understands the Supreme Lord in truth? Janma karma chame divyam evam yo veti tatvata. We have many instances in history illustrating Ṛṣabhadeva's instructions. Sukra Acharya was rejected by Bali Maharaj due to his inability to save Bali Maharaj from the path of repeated birth and death. Sukra Acharya was not a pure devotee. He was more or less inclined to fruitive activity, and he objected when Bali Maharaj promised to give everything to Lord Vishnu. Actually, one is supposed to give everything to the Lord because everything belongs to the Lord. Consequently, the Supreme Lord advises in Bhagavad Gita 9.27, Yat karosi yad asnasi, yad juhosi tadasi yat, yat tapasyasi kanteya, tat kurusva mad arpanam. O son of Kunti, all that you do, all that you eat, all that you offer and give away, as well as all austerities that you may perform, should be done as an offering unto me. This is bhakti. Unless one is devoted, he cannot give everything to the Supreme Lord. Unless one can do so, he cannot become a spiritual master, husband, father, or mother. Similarly, the wives of the Brahmanas who were performing sacrifices gave up their relatives just to satisfy Krishna. This is an example of a wife rejecting a husband who cannot deliver her from the impending dangers of birth and death. Similarly, Prahlad Maharaj rejected his father, and Bharata Maharaj rejected his mother. Janani na sasyat. The word daivam indicates a demigod or one who accepts worship from a dependent. Ordinarily, the spiritual master, husband, father, mother, or superior relative accepts worship from an inferior relative, but here Ṛṣabhadeva forbids this. First, the father, spiritual master, or husband must be able to release the dependent from repeated birth and death. If he cannot do this, he plunges himself into the ocean of reproachment for his unlawful activities. Everyone should be very responsible and take charge of his dependents, just as a spiritual master takes charge of his disciple or a father takes charge of his son. All these responsibilities cannot be discharged honestly unless one can save the dependent from repeated birth and death. And thus ends our reading for today. We will continue from text 19 on Wednesday. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Shripad Bhakti Madhava Puri Maharaj Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Srila A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Srila Bhakti Nirmala Acharya Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Sri Rupanuga Guru Varga Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the worldwide devotees. Sama Bhakti Veda Vrinda Ki Jai. Jai Navaru Dham ki jai, Mayapur Dham ki jai, Jagannath Puri Dham ki jai, Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Ju ki jai, Ganga Mai Yamuna Mai ki jai, Vrindavan Dham ki jai, Giri Govardhan Gupta Govardhan Dham ki jai, Sham Kund Radha Kund ki jai, Tulsi Devi Bhakti Devi Vrinda Devi ki jai, Jai Harinam Sankirtan Yagya ki jai, Scientific Sankirtan Yagya ki jai, Princeton Bhakti Vedanta Institute ki jai, Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanandi, Hari 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 Bol. Dandavat Pranam.